the Everything But Politics podcast.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to this very special 96th edition of the Everything But Politics podcast. And this week's episode is a celebratory one with our brother, Josh Novosel. Josh, honored that you entrusted Evan and myself to tell your story here on our show. So without further ado, Josh, welcome to the Everything But Politics podcast.
Welcome. Let's do it.
What's up, boys? Glad to be here.
It's our honor, Josh. So, I don't know who knows your story, who knows what the last year has been like for you, but it's late July currently. The exact date is July 25th. This weekend a year ago was quite wild. I was with you. It was quite significant in your life. Why don't you start by giving a little rundown of that weekend that ultimately changed the trajectory of your life?
All right. So basically, well, first off, I've known YouTube my whole life, so got that out of the way. So, but yeah, last year around this time, my drinking was going down a bad path. I was drinking a lot, but it wasn't really a problem, or I didn't think of it as problematic until this day. But last year on the 30th, we were downtown for one of our buddies' birthdays, and
Shout out Tom.
Shout out Tommy. But I was drunk basically the entire day. Phone goes dead, and I somehow get on the train, South Shore, go back home. My parents are waiting to pick me up, and I blacked out on the train, and I missed the exit. My parents were looking for me, and the next thing I know, I wake up in the hospital, University of Chicago Hospital at 2 a.m. And the last thing I remember was going to the train station. And yeah, it was all due to alcohol. I was just abusing it repeatedly, and I needed that wake-up call. That was the big opening for me, really restart my life, I guess.
Totally. And I remember being back. I flew back to Florida the day of that. So I was with you on Friday night. Yeah. And I remember I was getting calls from your mother, from Patty. Also, shout out Patty.
Yeah, shout out Mom.
Shout out. So getting calls from her while in Florida, and then our friend Colin called me. And it was just turned into a thing, and I wasn't around to help, and it was scary, truthfully. So yeah. I remember getting the call that you were safe and like everyone was good. Evan DeBose was with you, and he kind of was startled that where the fuck did Josh go? So let's think about you leave University of Chicago Hospital, you get back to Munster. Where's your head at?
All right. Yeah, I'm glad you asked this because I was going to go into detail about this somehow. So that day was the worst day of my life, like without a doubt.
Is this the Sunday or Monday?
It's Sunday. It was Sunday scaries for sure.
Post-release hospital. Okay.
Post-release hospital. My hangover wasn't even affecting me. And usually my hangovers would be like 2 or 3 days worth of hangovers because I was constantly drinking. But this day I woke up. I remember, I'll be vulnerable. I was sitting in that hospital bed, scared. I didn't know what was going on. I was weak. I didn't feel well. My phone was still dead, talking to this nurse. And then I see my stepdad waiting down the hallway with this face of disgust. And if you know him, he's a scary figure if he's mad.
Oh, yeah, dude.
So I get in the car. It's 4 a.m. Him and my uncle come to the south side of Chicago to pick me up. No words were spoken in that car ride. Not one word. I get home. He goes, go to bed. Go to bed. The next day I wake up. It was the worst day of my life. I'm sitting in bed. I didn't leave my bed. I was thinking all day what happened for those 4 hours that I blacked out. Like no one knows where I was. Mm-hmm. I felt so bad. I had to call you. I had to call Colin. I had to call Evan, all of my friends. I had to call them and let them know I was okay. Like think about the situation. My mom was calling my closest friends, wondering where I'm at. No one knows. And you guys don't even know. And I feel ultimately bad for Evan DeBose that day because I was so drunk and made him drop me off at the train station.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't even know that. Okay.
I was so wasted. And I was like, you're dropping me off. I have to get home. And he was like, dude, I don't think you should. You're like pretty banged up right now. And I was like, no, take me home. So he takes me to the train station and the rest is history. So he felt I unfairly put a lot of the blame on him in that situation when he did nothing wrong.
Yeah, and I remember at the
Yeah.
time that Friday, you kept repeating how much you hate Chicago. You want to go home. Like
Mhm.
this is enough's enough.
Yeah,
And
so I was lying to myself because of my alcohol issue, to be honest, because I knew every time I'd go to a city, either that be Chicago, Indy, go see my college friends, I knew it was an excuse to get wasted because
Yep.
I didn't have anything to worry about. And I was just going to get as drunk as I possibly could because I knew my friends would take care of me if anything went awry. So there was no worries in the world. And I knew that I wouldn't be going home to my parents to get mad at me.
there you go.
And Josh, that night was like the turning point, but how long prior to that do you think you were drinking for? And what did like a normal day consist of? How many times a week were you drinking?
Dude, it was basically when college ended, it got the worst. When college
Okay.
ended, I took like a gap year, I guess, in a sense, or not a gap year, a gap half of a year until I got my job at a school.
Mhm.
And I would just wake up, go get some White Claws, drink them upstairs, and then I'd finish. I could go through about 12 White Claws in a day. It was pretty bad. I would just start in the morning and go till the end of the day. And then it got so bad to the point where like my hangovers, I would start making decisions based on how I could get my next drink and how bad my hangover would be. So it
So
was,
if you were hungover, would you drink to cure the hangover then?
oh yeah, that was my only, I was in this endless cycle of
Mm-hmm.
knowing I'd wake up feeling so bad that that I would go out of my way to get alcohol to be ready for the morning so I wouldn't be that stuck in that state. It was like a
Yeah.
loop.
So
Well,
if you were getting up in the morning and drinking and getting these White Claws, how aware were your parents of that?
They weren't. I was lying to everyone. I was hiding it. I would go. This is when I started to realize I had a problem. But the biggest thing was I was lying to myself. I was telling myself it's everyone's got a vice.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go to ATMs to get cash out. So my parents couldn't see a credit card statement and I would go buy a 12 pack with a $20 bill. And it got so bad to the point that both of the liquor stores I shopped at knew me.
But
Like,
did it ever get to the point? I mean, it was. I feel like it's obvious. Like you're pissing all day long. Did anyone ever
yeah.
question that?
No, because I still do that. I'm just look, I got a coffee, I got a big water, I'm always drinking. And that's something yeah, like I said, I'll be totally vulnerable. I go to a therapist sometimes, like every other month, to talk about just life and just vent essentially, and
Mm-hmm.
it's great for me. But yeah, we talked about the fact that once I start alcohol wise, I can't stop. It's like I almost become bipolar. I'm manic and I'm like so happy on top of the world when I'm drunk. And then I'm so depressed when I'm off of it. So I'm constantly chasing the positive effect when I'm
Mm-hmm.
not really ever doing anything positive with it. So
Wait, so here we are a year later, and as you just put your arm up, I noticed your Whoop band. What kind of impact has the Whoop made on your life?
uh tremendous one. And
Yeah.
I also, before we go any further with this, shout out you, shout out Jake, shout out Tommy, shout out Evan, shout out Kevin, shout out Colin, and helping me in this fitness journey too, like pushing me to find a new passion. Like I've taken my health into consideration. I've been running, I've been working out 3 days a
Yep.
week,
Love that.
and that's paid insane dividends. I have
Mm-hmm.
a new outlet to like get my energy out instead of just sitting and drinking. And now I think about how much empty calories I was putting into my body consistently. And now I'm just trying to be the best version of me and live
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, dude, I like that. And so Evan and I and Ethan, we wore Whoops for like almost 2 years. I don't wear it anymore.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Truthfully, just because I looked at it way too often. And when I would drink, oh my God, I couldn't stand the recovery. The data was just like
Yeah.
so.
1%.
Yeah, it was kind of just like don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to type of scenario. So um I don't wear it anymore, and if I slept well, if I got a great night of sleep and I'd wake up with like a 60% recovery, I would be pissed. And like I know like I'm sleeping well. Like I don't give a fuck what this app has to say. So that was annoying, but when I was good, like working out every single day, sauna, sleeping well, I love seeing the data, especially when you get
Yeah,
a good recovery or
Well,
good like HRV. That's like an encouraging thing.
totally.
and I think Merrick though the whoop, as much as you may not have like seen the 60% or super low when you drank, it has been extremely accurate. I was like you said, I was on it for at least 2 or 3 years, and I would consider going on it again. And there's no doubt about it that you could, even if you had a good night's sleep, if you worked out the day before, 60% recovery is pretty accurate. Like,
Yeah.
and the HRV is one of the big things that I was always fascinated about because you can tell when you drink, or even based on mood, if you're not having the best day or you're having a great day, the HRV absolutely is impacted by that the next morning. You could see it.
Well,
Yeah,
and Josh,
totally.
you were wearing the Fitbit too. How do they compare?
I've gone through 3 different bands. So I have
Mhm.
a Garmin for running because I last year, or in between last year and now, I ran a half marathon and a few 10Ks and stuff. And that
Nice.
one's my favorite for tracking like my stats running. But this one is definitely my favorite one to wear like on a day-to-day basis. And then the Fitbit is, I was not a fan. The Fitbit is just sort of a
Yeah.
beast.
See,
Yeah,
I
I
would
think
have
the Whoop's
really
probably the
liked,
best look.
and I would have liked the Whoop a lot more if it had a clock. You know, if it
Yeah,
had,
if there was something I
if,
could see right here, I
or
agree.
if you didn't have to open your phone to see your heart rate.
Exactly. That's my biggest complaint. I want to be more like able to see my heart rate at all the time because like when I have my Whoop or my Garmin over there, all I do
Mhm.
is just tap it and then it would light up, show me the clock, and it would show me my heart rate.
And have you ever
Yo,
put the Garmin on with the Whoop and compared the heart rates?
Yeah, and they're like basically the same. It's
Okay.
just it's a different tracking system too because that tracks steps and this
Mhm.
just tracks your strain,
Yep.
like you guys know. It's
yeah,
not like here's how many steps you've taken today.
yeah. I I'm not religious about tracking steps, but I definitely try to like get a lot of steps. But it's funny you guys mentioned the visual aspect of the Whoop. On the Danny Miranda podcast, Will Ahmed, founder of Whoop, went on. He said the reason they don't do that is because the second you put a visual thing on there, you're competing with watch companies. You're competing with the Rolexes, you're competing with Apple, you're competing with Breitling, and it's a completely different market. So just the Whoop, just now they have like the colorful ones and like the knitted bands.
Yeah, there's some crazy bands out there.
Yeah, but it's a different game. Once the second you put a visual thing on there, you're competing against like a completely different sector. So I thought that was interesting because it is convenient to be able to look down at your wrist, know what time it is, and if you want to know, for whatever reason, what your heart rate's at,
Yep.
like 94, it's like okay, cool, I'll keep going about my day. But that's unfortunately not an option. So Josh, another thing about you stopping drinking, I don't like consider you that you went into recovery, if you will. I would just say you stopped.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
So that was definitely an interesting first few months of no drinking. So from drinking every day, going from drinking every day to not at all, like the cold turkey, it was definitely tough for like the first month or 2 or 3. But so none of our friends are really around at that time. Like most of our friends lived in the city or lived in different states, so I didn't have to worry about going out or anything. But yeah, I was sort of just only going to the gym and then coming home. It
And just
was
just for reference for our listeners, this is August 2023.
yeah, this is a year ago. So it was I would go work out and I'd come and sit home and I would just find something to do here. I didn't really want to be out in public. I didn't really want to be out at all. I just sort of wanted to I don't know. I was figuring out what I was doing with myself. It was a tough time, but after like a year or two, or not a year, a month or two, I was able to go back out and do things. But it was a little bit of time, and I was like, hey, you need to just lay low for a little bit and still think about what you did and think about how awful that was. But after that, it was, and it's not that I hate drinking. Like I totally like go out, have a few drinks. I'll still go out and watch people drink and stuff, but I just don't do it because I can't. But yeah, so I'll go out, I'll drive, and I still have fun going out without alcohol. That's the biggest thing that I've realized. Like, I don't need alcohol to be outgoing or have fun, but like, it was a big crutch that I used because it's an excuse, really. Like, you could just get
Yep.
wasted and say I was drunk,
Well, and
but
Yeah, right. Yeah.
how often when you went cold turkey in the first couple of weeks did you have that urge to drink?
like just about every day. The first day I was like, I didn't want it ever again. I was like, I feel
Mhm.
awful. I ruined my life. When in reality, I didn't. But that day, it felt like I did. And I was like, I'm done. I'm never drinking again. And then that week, I was like, well, what if I just go back to the little store and get a little 12-pack of White Claws? Like, what's it to
Yeah.
you? Like, you'll be fine. No one else is going to know. The only person you have to keep yourself accountable is you. because I lied to my parents, I lied to my friends, I lied to everyone for like a year or two about how much I really did drink. And the only person that knows what I'm doing is me. And that's what like I wanted to come on here to talk about. Like you just got to be able, you got to be hold yourself accountable, and you have to be wanting to make the strides. It's tough for sure, but it's doable.
And so
Absolutely.
after the desire kind of, dispersed, went away, when did you kind of make it your identity that I don't drink?
Yeah, that I don't know. I wouldn't say it's like anything that I'm like going out of my way to let everyone know I don't drink.
No, I would agree. Yeah.
I try to keep it under wraps. Like I don't want people to think of me as the guy that doesn't drink, but everyone who knows me knows I don't drink because I can't. But
It's a weird thing. Drinking, like people that don't drink, you can't just not drink. Everyone's got to like assume that,
yeah, what
what
happened?
what happened?
Well, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of proud to say I don't really drink anymore either. Like I might
Yeah,
have
you don't
a
drink, but
no,
just buzz.
and I might have a drink once every 2 or 3 months, if that. Like, and I don't like. Ethan made a good point. There's a BB King song, and it's called "The Thrill Is Gone," and I feel like I've drinking enough to the point that I don't have the same thrill that I maybe
Yeah.
did when I was 17 or 16, and it's more fun when you're not of age.
Oh yeah, when you're not supposed to do it,
Yeah,
it's best. But
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
like playing die in our backyard,
That was
like
like the most fun times of all I've
Yeah,
ever
those
had.
being in the
those memories are
basement.
forever. Yeah, being in the basement,
I mean, we
especially
have
die.
some
Well, like actually,
amazing
that's a good
videos.
point. You guys probably have videos of me like chugging
Totally.
handles.
Maker's
I have
Mark.
some videos that will never be surfaced
Yeah,
ever.
like I could go on one knee and chug Captain Morgan for 15 seconds.
I
And I was like
remember
proud of that.
Bush
Dude, that's
Lights.
just some college shit, bro. Like,
But looking back on it now, like, oh my God, like I can't even believe, like I can't wrap my brain around me getting on one knee and chugging hard alcohol for 15 seconds.
I
Like,
think
what
it's
was
it's
so
my end
wild.
goal?
I also though I think it's good though to like not have regrets about it because we had some amazing times and it was a
Yeah.
blast,
Yeah.
but it was in the past and it like you realize it's not sustainable.
No. Yeah, but I wouldn't change a thing. I
No.
going back and thinking about it, it's like I remember playing die in your backyard and like waiting all day for Merrick to text us and be like, come over. I was literally
Yeah.
like a little kid, like waiting,
Well, and
laying in my bed, flicking my feet back and forth, waiting.
I remember the first day we had the die table. You guys were right over, and
Yeah.
I didn't even know what the game was, and we're like, I think we played to 9, and every
Yeah.
3 points was a beer.
But
Yeah.
you were probably a junior, Evan, going into senior year of high school.
Yep.
That was right when that was like the weekend the song "The London" came out.
Yes.
Travis
Yes.
Scott and Young Thug, yeah, and J. Cole. That was like
That was the song of the summer. That was
that
the
was
die
that
song.
yeah, that was I just how like songs bring you back to moments in time. Whenever I
Mhm.
hear that song, I always think of, that first weekend. Um, dude, that's when we had like the bonfire in the back, and like it
Yep.
was just like completely different.
I think
Everything was so different.
kind of
And
when
that was
like
pre-COVID. Like literally life was different.
yep, Ethan was
We brought
playing
that to
some music.
Munster.
What happened?
I said Ethan was playing the guitar and we
Yeah,
just
we'd have live
drinking
music out
yeah.
there.
Dude, that was really some incredible times. But Josh, when you did, obviously with our friends at home, we were extremely supportive. What was it like with your college friends who you kind of you know developed these habits alongside?
Oh, my college friends were actually big in it, big points in like helping me stop. Like, cause
Oh,
my senior
nice.
year of college is when I developed the problem, I think. My senior year of college, I would go downstairs. I lived in an apartment with 3 of my close friends, and I would sneak, shout out Nick, I would sneak and drink his alcohol. And I would go down and grab it and chug a little bit of his booze, put the cap back on, and go back upstairs. And it's like at one point he called me out for it. He was like, "Dude, I know you're drinking my alcohol. Either get it yourself or get it together." And I was like, "Yeah,
Oh, that's a nice. I like that. Get it yourself or get it together.
yeah." I don't know if he said that exactly, but I just might have made that quote. But yeah, that's how I felt. And then you could ask any of my college friends. I made it a contest with myself. The guy at Purdue, where I went to school, he knew my name at this little store called AM/PM. he'd call me Bud Light Lime because that's what I'd get. I'd get 2 cases of Bud Light Limes, and he'd go, Bud Light Lime.
Dude, that
And
is funny.
I would drink 12 Bud Light Limes a day on a good day most of the time.
Those
Wow.
liquor store owners and gas station owners must see some shit.
Yes,
Like
bro.
every day, the same, couple dozen dudes.
Amen.
Like,
Yeah.
Well,
They're
and then
regulars.
think about
Yeah.
like cigarette smoking. Like, pack comes in 20. You might have a dude coming every day and smoking 20 darts. Like,
Yeah.
that's like we talk.
Oh,
It's just
Yeah.
insane. Like how you don't realize like what the body can do because it just keeps adapting. Like if like right now, if you and I went and tried to kill 20 cigs, we would be
we wouldn't.
done.
We'd die.
Nah, yeah, we'd be
Dude.
done for.
That just sounds miserable. I
But
mean,
yeah, and no, but when I'd go get those Bud Light Limes, I'd get a pack of Zins. It was like clockwork. The guy knew what I was getting. He'd already ring up the 2 Bud Light Limes. Then he'd go, "What flavor Zins?" And it was like, oh man. So since the 30th of July last year, I haven't had a single thing of nicotine and a single thing of alcohol, and it's been the greatest change I've made.
But
Wonderful.
people often say that nicotine is the hardest thing to get off. Did you feel that way?
No, I just associated nicotine with alcohol because every time, like, whenever I drink, I'd get the feeling like, ooh, I want to put a Zin in. Ooh, give me a vape. Ooh, give me something.
Well,
That's
and
interesting.
I remember in high school, Merrick and I every Friday after school, we'd go to the tobacco store. We'd get 5 packs of mango pods, and those
Yeah.
5 would be gone by the next Friday.
And we would play like half a dozen
We'd
games
be
of
playing
Madden after
Madden
school.
and
Yeah.
just
Yeah. See,
rip
That's
mine
and
great.
was just
roll.
all associated with alcohol, which is good and bad, I guess. It was good because I just cut them both off at the same time, and they were the same like addiction in the same realm. But I feel like for other people, I know some people that are more nicotine attached, and that definitely is probably harder than alcohol. It just depends on your addiction with it.
Do you think it would have been different if you had started drinking earlier?
I think about that often, actually. I do think so. I was a goody two shoes in high school until my senior year when I let loose. And I think that if I got a little bit of my bad boy out, I guess you could say, I might have not had such a strong urge to drink in college and let loose. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think that is a impact. I think because I started drinking at the end of senior year of high school. And I think if I were to start a little bit earlier, I would have gotten some more experience, I guess you could say. I don't even know how to word it. It sounds
Yeah,
messed
it's
up,
just one
but
of those. It's like a big question mark, and like
yeah,
there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing that'll ever answer that question. But
no.
it is an interesting thing to think about. So since last August, when did you start? When did you start lifting weights and getting in the gym?
I'd say that I think I started working out a little bit before that, before I stopped drinking because I won't forget the day. We were at El Salto in Munster, me and Jake and Tommy, our friends from home, were drinking margaritas, and I wanted to get another one after my second one. And Jake said to me, the only way you could get one more margarita is if you come to Fitness Point with me afterwards. And
Like
I
the
was like,
same day?
yeah. And I was like, after another margarita, you want me to go work out? And he was like, if you think you can do that, then yeah. So I got my next margarita and I went to Fitness Point with him. And ever since then, I've been sort of intrigued with the way I feel and the way I don't know, I could just see improvements there. It's something that you can constantly see that you're getting better at if you
Yeah,
continue. So,
totally. And that's I could say the same about our show. I remember when we first started, you, Tommy, and I were at Innsbruck, and a lot of people were like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, and you were always a day one supporter. And, we
dude,
we
yeah.
built that since we were kids, baseball, even
Chase
golf,
your
like.
dreams. Yeah, I've known you guys my whole life.
Yeah, you've always
Love,
been
love,
a supportive person. But like you just build momentum, whether it be for a podcast, a business, or like your fitness journey. Like the
yeah.
first month, you're not gonna like you might feel good, but you're not gonna see much. But you keep going, and then you increase your weight, and you're starting to see a little something, a little definition in your arms, and then like from there, it's like it's an addiction.
Yeah, that's what it is an addiction. Once you see progress, it's an addiction. I'm obsessed with improving now. Like I was running and I was trying every time I'd run, I'd try to cut my minutes down a little bit, or I'd try to cut my seconds. I'd try to run like a 5K in 1 less minute or in 30 less seconds. There was always something that I could look forward to and chop down. Or like when I go to the gym, I want to put on 5 more pounds by the end of the month.
And
And it's
So
like,
what are your current goals in the gym?
I would just say overall improvement of like my physique, like the way I look. Now more so I'm not as much pushing weight just to push the weight. I'm trying to more reps, get more tone instead of just, I guess, the weight just to throw the weight around.
Yeah,
and
I'm with you on that. I
Mhm.
would rather be strong and have strength than be bulky and like thick.
Yeah. Initially, I didn't care about the way I looked. I was just like, I'm gonna bench press 200 pounds by the end of the year, and it's like, dude,
well,
all
and
right,
so
get a grip.
if you're on if you're on X, there's a really good fitness guy named Zach Homel, and he's actually from Indianapolis, and I mean, this guy is probably like 220, but he's just so strong. I mean, he's lifting 100-pound dumbbells over his head with
Yeah.
ease. And but he also does like Ironman, so he could run. So he's kind of the hybrid athlete. So going into like running, do you have any events coming up?
That's the thing. So I last year I started working out in the gym and then I
Mhm.
just fully switched to running from like the fall till the start of this summer. So recently I just stopped running because I can't run in this heat. This humidity like
Mhm.
eats me. I'm like running and like trying to like rip off layers of skin. I'm so hot. But when the fall starts up, I already talked about I'm gonna run about I think I want to run 2 10Ks and another half marathon and just
Nice.
try to chop down my times because my body also feels amazing when I run. Everyone's does. It hurts a little, like you'll
Mhm.
get some leg pains and stuff, but my heart rate is so low. Everything's just you can notice improvements after a day of running.
And with your Whoop or even your Garmin, are you tracking or trying to stay in a certain zone, or you just do what happens?
Always. I'm
What
always
zone?
looking at my zones. So mostly for well, the guard there's different zones for all of these, but for that one, I tried to run in zone 2
Yes.
Yep.
consistently. And like that's like the relaxing zone, I guess you could say, or like the chill zone. And then on my long runs, I would try to, or my short runs, I'd try to push it to zone like 3 or 4. And then the long runs, I'd do it at 2. So I can
Yeah.
go further. But then now I don't even know where I'd be running wise. But yeah, I'd
I say
probably,
zone two is like the zone where you could like do cardio and still have a conversation.
yeah.
Merrick,
And
Zone
I was
two is
trying to do
also that's also supposed to be the best for your HRV.
you
And
hit
then,
that, yeah, like you wanted to make sure, yep, zone 2. That's the one.
Yeah,
That's
zone
the
two is the
one.
one. It is
zone
the
2
one.
is the one. That's the one you
Zone
want to be
2.
in so you
Gotta
can
stay
run
in
and
it.
talk.
Dude, I've talked about this on the show, but when the twins and I ran our half marathon last April, I hated every fucking second of it. I
Oh,
do
see,
not
I
like
love it.
running. I do not like
But
running,
you probably
especially
didn't train the way that you
yeah.
should.
So it's 13.1 miles, and I definitely just ran. I just ran
No,
for shits when my training. The most I did prior to the 13.1 was 10, and I
no,
was
I
like,
think this was Merrick's training, if I remember correctly. Ethan and I would run probably 3 miles to 5 miles, couple 2 3 times a week. Merrick's was once a week. I'm gonna run 3 miles. Then the next week I'm gonna do 3.5 miles.
it was
Then the
add
next
on.
week I'm gonna do
Yeah,
4. He just kept adding a half
that's
mile,
that's psycho.
and
it
then I think
was, and it sucked.
you
I
got
ran
to what?
every day when I
Yeah.
was training for mine. Every day after work, I'd go run a mile at least. It
And
was mostly
where you live is so convenient for that too.
yeah. I have a track right next to my house. I would go after
Yeah.
work. I'd literally roll outside and I'd run 3 miles, and I'd be like, okay, I want my 3 miles to be ran in this time, and
And
I'd
so
give myself a 15-second gap, and I would go out there and run it in that time frame.
it's someone who who made an incredible fitness journey was Jesse, who was with Nelk.
Oh yeah.
He talked about doing the 1 mile every day, and it made him he wasn't a big runner, but the 1 mile a day he said was huge, not only for his physical but mental side.
Yeah, like that was something I was gonna say too. The mental impacts of
Uh-huh.
running and just getting out there is I've only noticed positive side effects. Like I go out there and then I'm like, I go run a mile and I either come back home and I'm like, man, I should have ran one more. I'm feeling so good, or wow, I'm glad I at least got out there and
Yeah, there's
got some activity going.
sometimes you don't like in your head you don't want to go run, but then by the
Yeah,
time you're done, you're feeling great. Like, so Josh, definitely when you sign up for a 10K or half marathon, let me know, because
Totally.
I haven't ran in a minute, and it's definitely a great feeling, you know?
Yeah, there's always one in Thanksgiving around here. It's called the
Okay.
Turkey or the Pumpkin Plod. I ran it last year. It was my first race ever, and I didn't run it fast at all, but got it under my belt.
What is
Yeah,
a 10K? How far is that?
6.2 miles.
Something like that.
I'm
Yeah.
not really big into, like, I don't care what my time is. I
Yeah.
like to have my heart rate around like 150 to 165, and just like not be at the point where like I was killing myself. Like I see some of these guys on social media, they got 5, 6, 7 minute miles. I think my
Yeah.
mile
Yeah.
was like 10 and a half, 11 minutes. I
Yeah.
mean, I got no shame in it. It was just good to be
Yeah.
out there.
I mean, since I started running, I've been comparing myself because I got those running apps and I would see like my
Yeah.
times and I was always like, damn, that guy's running pretty quick. I want to catch that. So it was just like something I would put in my brain to like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, stay competitive, I guess you could say.
Well, and now that you've rewired your brain and your body, what are you consuming? I know you never liked chicken, which is funny, and that is because
Me
we don't eat
neither.
much chicken anymore either, because chicken's a weak bird. You don't want to eat weak animals. And but in terms of podcasts and reading, like what are you like doing or consuming, I guess, on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
So basically, I just do right now I'm in grad school, so I go wake up and I do a little bit of schooling every day and then I go to the gym and then I don't know, there's not much I do. I talk to my girlfriend, I do all these things and yeah,
You a
that's about
podcast guy? You listen to a lot of
I
podcasts?
listen to one podcast outside of this one. I've listened to your guys's like the ones whenever I see a name that piques my interest, I'm like, oh dang, I'm gonna
Yeah,
listen to
yeah,
that
yeah.
one. So like, but other than that, I listen to this one podcast called A New Untold Story, and it's three dudes. It's a barstool podcast, and it's just three guys shooting the shit, and it's hilarious.
I don't listen to much I mean I see it all over social media, but I love like Big Cat and PFT are so
Yeah, they're
fucking
funny for
funny.
sure.
They are
I
so
they
funny.
live the dream, like just being a personality out there. Like
Where
I
in
that's
Chicago are they?
Arlington Heights, I think, or like towards Arlington Heights, because I think the original plan was they wanted to move there, thinking about the Bears potentially going there.
Wait, to Arlington?
Yeah,
What do you think of it? What do you think about the Bears this year?
don't even get me riled up. I'm so excited. I've been listening to all these talk shows and everything. I think the Bears could be an NFC championship game. Who knows? I don't
Are you
want people.
serious?
Yeah, bro. But
We'll
that's how
see.
we work. We're
But
we're so toxic. Like
This
I
time of the year is always like that.
I think the Bears could win the Super Bowl this year, and that's just
Oh
delusion.
God, I don't. Yeah, that's straight delusion.
It's
I uh,
delusion, but like
I
I
I'm
see
pretty
it.
realistic at this point. I think they're going 8-9, 9-8,
Dude, no, they're
middle of the
making the
pack.
playoffs this year. I think they have to.
Why?
We have a rookie quarterback. We have a head coach that's been in the system and a defense that's proven that they're a top 10 defense.
that's a
Dude,
stretch for the rookie quarterback. The I think the NFL is the most competitive it's ever been. Like I even think the Commanders can compete in the Bear. Like you're talking about the Bears competing. You look at the Bears division and it's tough. Almost every division doesn't have a clear winner besides maybe the Chiefs. But you never know
Yeah.
what the
yeah,
Chargers are gonna do.
I
with
think the
Harbaugh.
Bears, I think Caleb Williams is going to surprise a lot of people. Everyone's saying he's making some crazy plays, and they've never seen any quarterback play like it in Chicago.
They said the same thing about Zach Wilson. I can't get excited about highlights anymore. I need to see it
Yeah,
on the field.
I agree, but I don't know. I'm remaining hopeful. I need something to latch onto. All my sports teams suck.
Yeah, I mean, you're about to have the Nashville White Sox.
Shh, stop. They're not moving.
Stop. Dude, that's so good. So tell us your plan for grad school here and what's happening with that.
So I'm in grad school for communication disorders. I want to be a speech language pathologist. Just I want to get back into sign language. In high school and college, I took a few sign language courses, and those really caught my interest. And yeah, I'm one of the few males in the speech language pathology world, and I'm really intrigued by it. And it's really I finally found like a passion, I guess you could say, because in college I didn't care. I just
Yeah.
got my degree to get my degree, but then I worked in a school for a little bit and I saw my impact with kids and I was like, dang, this makes me feel good. And being a man in the field or male in the field, I can have like a different connection with some of those like younger kids who don't have a male figure in their life to look
Yeah,
up.
yeah. That's great. You could be like a positive
Yeah,
masculine influence.
yeah, because a lot of these kids, some don't have dads in the picture or don't have good family lives, and I feel like, hey, if I could act as like a big brother for you, almost, I'm totally here and help your speech along the way. Because thinking about it now from an adult perspective, growing up with a speech impediment is pretty tough. You're at a disadvantage in all regards. So yeah, I just want to be there to help everyone and give them a fair shot at life, really.
It's great that I mean, to hear you say this a year ago would have been crazy. And
Yeah.
here we are like 12 months later and just so fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, I was a little kid a year ago. The amount of growth I've had is
Like we
crazy.
talk about it like through the group chat, but like to have this conversation and for you to come on our show, it's pretty cool. So 1 year in,
Yep.
a year from now, at the 2 year point, 12 months, what can we expect from JN?
I don't know. I don't want to put any things in the atmosphere, but I don't know. Just I'm gonna be thriving. That's all you got to know.
We're gonna
I'm gonna
keep
be looking
growing.
good and
Yeah,
trying good. Looking good and trying hard. That's
Yep.
what I'm.
fuck yeah.
Love it.
All right, well, Josh, appreciate you very much doing this.
Thank you so
Telling your
much. I
story.
appreciate you
Thank
guys.
you, Josh.
Yeah, we'll do this again in 5 years for the 5 year anniversary.
When
We'll
I'm the
make it up.
president
Yeah,
or
when you're
something
president,
crazy is
exactly.
happening.
All right, Josh. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming on our show, and we will see you guys next Monday. Thank you.